Our new story begins in a forest where the trees are as bony and twisted as an old woman's finger. Pitch black mold and moss spread across the ground, while a strangely murky sky hangs above the land. It is a place teeming with bizarre monsters that would never exist in reality. One creature, resembling an alien predator, holds a man's head in its jaws as it prepares to bite. The man struggles desperately, grabbing the monster's head, but the creature forces itself forward and eventually bites through his skull. That man is Woojin, the main character of this story. Whenever he dies in that place, he wakes up from the dream. He wakes up drenched in sweat, clutching his neck. For 12 years, he has endured the pain of dying as if it were real. "That damn dream again," he mutters. Woojin lives in the city, and whenever he encounters monsters in his dream, he writes down their weaknesses and the easiest ways to defeat them. He can endure the pain of dying, but what hurts more is sleep itself. He is exhausted from constant lack of sleep. If he falls asleep in reality, he is sent back to that nightmare world, where he must fight monsters. If he dies in the nightmare world, he returns to reality. Because of this cycle, there is no way for him to get a proper night's sleep. To stop dying in that hellish dream, Woojin spent the last 12 years doing everything he could to prepare. He studied weaponry, martial arts, swordsmanship, jungle survival, and military tactics. Because of this effort, he slowly began dying less often in his nightmares. However, the biggest problem remained sleep. He even consulted a doctor, but the only advice he received was to find something he truly wanted to do, so he might finally sleep well. That advice was not helpful at all. When he thought about what he truly wanted, he looked at the records he had carefully stored on his bookshelf. At that moment, he already knew that the only thing he truly wanted was simply to fall asleep. As he thought about wanting to sleep soundly, even just once, blood suddenly began dripping from his nose. An unimaginable dizziness overwhelmed him. His vision darkened, his consciousness faded, and he eventually collapsed on the floor after losing too much blood. That was how he died. Suddenly, his body felt light, and the terrible headache he had endured for 12 years completely disappeared. For the first time in years, it felt like fresh, clean air was filling his chest and head. He felt as if he had finally slept properly, something he had never experienced during those 12 long years. He wondered if he had truly died. When Woojin opened his eyes, he discovered that he was sitting under a large tree. It was the same nightmare world where he had suffered for 12 years. Soon, he noticed something approaching. A giant lizard-like monster with a long tongue and multiple eyes moved nearby, forcing him to hide quickly. Considering the amount of blood he lost, he believed he might truly be dead. If that was the case, then dying in this nightmare world would mean there was no reality left to return to. Accepting this possibility, he decided that this place was now his new reality. As the monster searched the area for prey, Woojin understood exactly what kind of world this was and what he needed to do to survive. In this situation, he should normally run toward a bright place that monsters hate. But for some reason, he unsheathed his sword and jumped forward to face the monster instead. He did not want to run away. Perhaps it was because he had finally slept deeply for the first time in years, or maybe because his new body felt younger than his real one. The monster rushed toward him, opening its mouth to devour him. Woojin's entire body screamed at him to fight and survive. In a single swift movement, he slashed his sword and cut the monster clean in half. The creature collapsed to the ground. He had successfully hunted it. Woojin then dismantled part of the monster and discovered a blue core inside. Without hesitation, he picked it up and began eating it. As he gazed into the dark sky with red eyes and monster blood still in his mouth, he made a promise to himself that he would survive in this dark fantasy world no matter what. His first step would be to travel toward a brighter place. Woojin slept on top of a huge tree where a ray of light reached the branches. When he woke up, he smiled, realizing he had another night of perfect sleep. He prepared to continue his journey once again. As he cut some vines nearby, he remembered that it had already been a month since he began crossing this world. He continued traveling from the pitch-black darkness toward the light. Even though he now felt the urge to fight, he never hunted recklessly because he knew that risking his life for fun was madness. Still, he could not completely suppress the desire to battle. The only times he hunted were when he needed food. Soon, he felt hungry. With a single strike, he slashed the head off a bat monster. After killing a monster, he always searched for its essence and ate it, hoping to gain a chance of acquiring the monster's power. As he rested on a tree, he realized that ever since he began consuming monster essence, adapting to this world had become easier. He also discovered another important fact. He found a tag and learned that the body he now possessed belonged to someone with the status of a third-class mercenary. For some reason, he could read the writing on it. The existence of such a token meant that people were living somewhere in this world. Not long after, he finally saw a light within the forest. As he followed it, he noticed traps placed on the ground. Traps clearly meant for monsters. That meant people must be nearby. Excited, Wu Jin ran toward the light. When he finally left the forest, he saw a small house. He froze for a moment before slowly approaching it. He knocked on the door, opened it, and called out to ask if anyone was inside, but there was no response. Inside, he noticed a book lying on the table. When he opened it, he discovered it was titled Demonic Realm Chronicles. The book contained the history of this world and was written very meticulously. Wu Jin immediately realized that if he wanted to survive here, the book was absolutely necessary. Just then, someone entered the house and pointed a crossbow at him, demanding to know who he was. The old man warned him to answer clearly, or he would put a hole in his head. Wu Jin thought to himself that although he was glad to finally see another person, he never expected to be mistaken for a robber. He calmly turned around and told the old man not to misunderstand. He explained that he had only entered out of curiosity after seeing a house in such a remote place. The old man told him to leave immediately, saying he had no business with him. Wu Jin agreed, but before leaving, he asked if he could borrow the book because he wanted to read it. He added that he was willing to pay a price if necessary. The old man asked what Wu Jin would do if he refused. Wu Jin thought for a moment. He knew that he absolutely needed the book to survive. Slowly, he grabbed the weapon at his waist and told the old man that he might have no choice but to become a robber. The two faced each other with fierce focus. Wu Jin carefully observed the old man. Even though he did not know how strong the man was, he strangely felt that he would not lose. The old man suddenly sighed, lowered his weapon, and admitted that a real robber would never talk about wanting to read a book. He then greeted Wu Jin and introduced himself as Hector. Wu Jin was surprised that Hector lowered his guard so quickly. He introduced himself as Kim Wu Jin, but Hector misheard the name as Gimuji and commented that it sounded quite peculiar. Wu Jin asked him to simply call him Jin, thinking that his real name must be difficult to pronounce in this new world. Hector then explained that the book was very precious to him and that he could not lend it out. However, if Wu Jin wanted to read it, he could stay in the house for a while. In return, he would help with simple chores. Wu Jin thanked him, and because of that encounter, he ended up staying in Hector's house. He noticed that Hector was rough, but he did not seem like a bad person. That night, they cooked a stew. Hector told him to eat. Wu Jin stared at the bowl for a moment. It had been a long time since he last had warm soup. As he began eating, tears slowly fell from his eyes. The soup was so delicious that he even wondered if Hector might actually be an angel. Every morning when the sun rose, Hector would go out hunting. One day, he told Wu Jin that his hunt might take longer than usual. He explained that he intended to take revenge on the monster that had killed his comrades. Wu Jin noticed that Hector seemed unusually nervous that day, even though he looked strong. From this, Wu Jin concluded that the monster must be extremely powerful. While Hector was away, Wu Jin spent his time reading the chronicles. According to the book, all the stories began with the Northern Empire. Its king, blinded by greed, laid his hands on the otherworldly gate said to contain the truth of all creation and immense power. However, the moment the king opened that gate, calamity began. Powerful monsters poured out from the otherworldly gate and transformed the North into a demonic realm in only 9 years. In response, humanity united many factions and formed the Order Alliance. The Order Alliance eventually built a barrier to prevent the demonic realm from spreading further. After reading that part, Wu Jin closed the book and reflected on what he had learned. The book contained a great deal of useful information, but something about it seemed strange. According to the chronicles, the deeper one traveled into the demonic realm, the stronger the monsters would become. Wu Jin realized that as he moved toward the light, the monsters had been getting weaker. Outside the house, Hector suddenly came running back while Wu Jin was still thinking about how deep within the demonic realm he must have wandered before reaching this place. Wu Jin wondered just how strong he truly was in this world. Hector was being chased by monsters. He stopped and fired his crossbow, but the werewolves easily slashed the arrow out of the air. Hector was shocked that not even a single arrow could get through. As he continued running, he suddenly saw Wu Jin stepping out of the house with his sword. Wu Jin walked forward calmly and prepared to attack. Hector shouted for him to run, warning that the monsters were too dangerous. But Wu Jin ignored the warning. He rushed past Hector and charged directly toward the monsters. Hector stared in disbelief. Wu Jin, however, moved with the focus of a hunter who had spotted his prey. He leapt toward one of the werewolves. The creature raised its arm to strike, but Wu Jin's sword cut through its arm and body in a single slash. The other werewolf hesitated and did not dare to attack. Hector stood there in shock, unable to believe that Wu Jin had just killed a werewolf with one strike. Wu Jin then turned to Hector and calmly asked if the monster he had just slain was considered strong.